All right, welcome. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. How's it going, everybody? Hey, welcome. This has been a great week. It is beautiful outside. I'm so thankful that it's finally warming up. We got some sunshine in the area, getting the snow finally all melted. It's a beautiful thing. Getting the yard work done, all that good stuff. I know everybody's been out there raking, burning piles and crap. But spring is finally here, and boy, what a blessing it is. It's good to be with you guys this week. We got some medical marijuana news I want to share with you. I got some events happening at the Genesee County Compassion Club. We'll get those listed for you to keep you up to date as to what's going on. And, of course, we got news from around the world on medical marijuana. We'll get things kicked off, letting you know that we've got our annual, I don't know if that's the right term, actually, but Adopt the Highway. It's this Saturday, April 12th. From 9 to 2 p.m. We're meeting at the club at 9, and then we'll carpool out to our sites. We'll be cleaning M13 section there, and then also Dort Highway section there as well. And I drove through the Dort Highway area last week on the way home, and boy, I can tell you it is filthy. So we definitely need your help. If you guys can come out this Saturday, chip in, and help us get those two areas cleaned up, we greatly appreciate it. We'll be having some refreshments at the club afterwards when we finish up. And, it's always a good time, good term for the community that we like to do, and it's good to be a part of. You can go out there and see our signs right there on either highway, 2-mile sections each that we're helping to keep clean. So it's a wonderful thing, and we could definitely use your help. Again, that's this Saturday, April 12th from 9 to 2. So meet us out there if you can. Next upcoming event that we've got coming here is our soup kitchen. And I talked to Matt, the chef, Bernash. He's going to be cooking up some cod, I believe. So we're doing fried fish, and it's simply fantastic. He also does some baked beans and cobbler. It's always a hit down at the North End Soup Kitchen here in Flint. And that'll be coming up here on May 2nd, which is a Friday. If you guys can participate, we need your help with that as well. And that's a lot of fun to get to eat and serve. And that's starting at 2 o'clock. We meet at the club, head over to the soup kitchen, carpool over there, and we're done usually by 5. If not sooner. So help us out if you can with those events. We'd love to be a part of the community in a good way, and those are two wonderful ways that allow us to participate and kind of give back and be an example in the community as well. So thanks a lot to all the people that have been participating in the past. Definitely greatly appreciate that. And shout out to, again, the chef, Mr. Bernash, for cooking it up and being the master down there at the soup kitchen. It's an awesome thing you do. We definitely appreciate it. All right, other events we got coming up at the club. Of course, our annual 420 celebration happening on April 19th, which is a Saturday, just a couple weeks away. So get your tickets down at the club. They are available now, and it's going to be a fun-filled event. We've got our twist-off contest going on. We're going to have some great food, fun, and prizes happening, and it's a great time to get together. Everybody's going to be checking each other's stuff out. Of course, it's a celebration of medical marijuana, kind of an anniversary for the club. This is our 5th year of doing it. And we're going to have a lot of fun. It'll definitely be an exciting time. Definitely want to see you guys down there. So put that on your calendar, April 19th. And it's going to be starting at about 11 o'clock and then just goes all day long. So you can stop by any time. I know there'll be food available after 11. We got the hot dog man coming out from Davison area, serving up all different kinds of hot dogs. And then later on, we'll be serving sort of a dinner with backyard barbecue. They're going to be catering for us, so you can get a dinner plate. It's all included in your ticket price. There's going to be prizes, like I said, the twist-off contest, which is always a lot of fun. We got the most creative, the fastest, and the best overall rolled joints, and we want to see what you can do. So bring your creativity as well, and look forward to having a good time at the 420 party. It's going to be a blast. I got some news I do want to share with you this week regarding medical marijuana. I was checking out this thing earlier today. It's from Canada. And if you're not aware, Health Canada had switched their program up. We talked about this on the show a couple times in the past. But, in Canada, if you want to get medical marijuana, it goes through what they call the Health Canada department. And in the past, patients could produce their own or have a caregiver do it for them. And then in addition to that, there was also another source available for medical marijuana, which was directly through Health Canada. And they had a couple approved commercial providers who would provide that weed to the department, and then they in turn mail that out to their patients. But at any rate, the program changed, and as of April 1st, it got its kickoff, if you will. It's still called Health Canada, but it's supposed to be a little bit easier now to get signed up in the program. I know it was quite difficult to actually get a recommendation in Canada in the past, but they say with the new program, it should actually be a little bit simpler, a little bit easier to get qualified. However, there's going to be a few hang-ups. One of the things is that you will not be able to produce your own cannabis. You cannot grow it for yourself any longer. And there are also no caregivers allowed either. So the only way to get medical marijuana if you are in the Canadian medical marijuana program is through the Health Canada department. They are licensing a number of large-scale commercial growers, and those producers will then in turn provide the marijuana to their assigned patients. And patients have to sort of designate which company it is they want to get their medicine from, and they do have an option where they can get, through multiple providers, but it's quite tricky to do so. You got to get an extra recommendation from the doctor, and then the doctor actually has to split up, where you're getting your medication from, so you're not getting a double dose, if you will. But at any rate, it kind of takes out the home grow situation. You can't provide it for yourself, can't have a caregiver, and it solely puts it in the hands of these commercial producers. So one of those producers is, as most of you know, Prairie Plant Systems. They do business as CanaMed in Canada, and they've also tried to do business here in Michigan as well. Now, these are one of those hostile takeover of the program sort of situations, one that I know most people here in Michigan do not want to see, and I could second that sentiment. But at any rate, that's how it's going in Canada. So I guess some people out there seem to be happier, that it's going to be easier to get into the program. But the people that were already in the program are kind of up in arms. There's a court case going on right now where they've currently sort of postponed the law, if you will, in a sense, and they are still allowing the home grows to continue, the ones that have already been in existence prior to this change. And those are going to be able to continue until this court case is resolved, and it looks like they might not have their resolution until 2015. So it might be a ways off.
Are they doing the same kind of restrictions? Okay, I don't know about the Canadian health care system, about the doctors that prescribe, but here it seems the doctors are really quick to prescribe drugs that are, have horrifying side effects and really possibly dangerous. Looking at the marijuana, I don't see why they have to think that they have to be such a severe gateway or have gatekeepers, so severe gatekeeping process going on. I mean, this is absurd, and I mean, it's probably I hope it's not a harbinger of things to come here, but there's attempts at this as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm talking about it too, John, is because there is that concern that, you could see programs emulate what they've done in Canada here in the United States, especially like here right in Michigan, where you see the government sort of stepping in and saying, no, you guys aren't responsible enough to produce it for yourself or to get it from someone locally. This needs to be provided through a commercial provider, someone that's licensed, someone that's monitored.
They act like this is sarin gas or something like this. I mean, something like weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, I mean,
this is absurd.
It is absurd, and I think it's more about the dollar than it is anything else. They try to regulate these things in the name of safety, in the name of protection for the patient, but in reality, I don't think it provides a whole lot more protection at all, and I think that it limits the patient's ability to have the choices available to them, to have the interaction, with their own garden or with their caregiver, for that matter.
Another thing is, too, in Michigan, we voted for the medical marijuana initiative thing.
Yes.
We put it on the ballot. We voted in overwhelmingly. And it's like when they're trying to introduce stuff like that here, it's like saying, we believe in democracy, but only to a certain degree. We're professional lawmakers. Don't try this with yourself, by yourself.
Yeah, you're not kidding, John. They kind of have this "don't try this at home" attitude of, we'll do the legislation around here. We don't need your help.
Yeah, we wear suits and we're taking money, and these guys paid us a lot of money to make sure they're the sole provider.
Right.
And I mean, otherwise, these guys might break our legs or something, man. I mean, it angers me.
Contributions.
Yeah, it angers me to the point most people are passively sitting by. It's okay. Okay. And it's all about control for these people. It's all about control.
And I think so too. I mean, I've actually seen some of the tested results from previous providers in the Health Canada program, and actually the results for their medical marijuana were relatively low. I mean, if you look at the overall quality, especially the quality that we've seen inside the Genesee County Compassion Club with the tested results that we've received, the cannabinoid content that was, in the majority of the products that went through, they're inferior. I mean, there are lowered amounts. The actual end product was, I've seen that the way that it's packaged and shipped. It's actually already pre-ground, so you don't really know if you're getting actual bud material or if it might be some, leaves mixed in there. But at any rate, I really don't think that this is a better option for patients. I think it's an inferior option. And, to take away someone's ability to provide their own medication when they have, the full ability to do so, it seems like it's sort of it's a socialistic type of policy, one that doesn't echo democracy the way that our country represents.
Well, it seems like what they're trying to say, we're going to make you use this, basically these companies offering an inferior brand, and then later on we can say there some levels in these marijuana that they're providing is so low, we can't see where there's any kind of possible benefit, and they can eliminate. I'm basically tired of these people. These guys are experts in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, not only lawmaking, but medicine, every issue in life they're experts in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's definitely not something we want to see echoed here in Michigan. So that's part of the reason I wanted to share it with you guys today, let you know what's up in Canada, let you know how that program has been instituted, and hopefully to prevent the same thing happening here on Michigan soil. I mean, we don't want to have government-regulated grows the way that they're doing it in Canada. I mean, it's just, they try to spin this off in the program. I'm reading from their frequently asked questions guide of Health Canada, and they're trying to spin it off as if patients are going to have more access, more product choices, and that's really not the case. I mean, you can just take a look around for yourself and see that patients have more choices when they can choose for themselves. I mean, that's pretty clear, rather than going to this commercial type of setting where maybe you only have 2 or 3 different strains available, or maybe just dried flowers available. There's a lot of other different types of ways that this is prepared, and ways that it has been found to be effective for patients to eliminate those or to make those prohibited again. It just seems like it's a step backwards. They do predict in Canada that this is going to increase the number of patients across the country. They say nearly 40,000 people right now are already enrolled in the program, and they expect the number to reach upwards of 400,000 over the next 10 years. I don't know if that's going to be, again, it's sort of a spin program here that I'm reading from. If the program was more accessible, like it is now, back in the past, maybe they would already have those numbers in place.
The other thing is, too, it's like, look at the possible economic impact this would have, and it's only going to benefit a handful of people now, whereas before it could have handled, a much wider, segment of society through the caregiver situation. So, I mean, this definitely demonstrates they're trying to funnel as much money as they can to these special interest groups.
Yeah, I think it is a special interest thing as well, and that's why I'm really not a supporter of it. I think this should stay Main Street instead of Wall Street. But anyway, that's the information there that I wanted to share with you on this, and it just makes you sick to my stomach to see people not be able to take care of themselves. It's wrong. All right, I got to pause for just a second here. I got to respond to this. Hold on. Just so you know, we've been having a little bit of internet issues on this program, and so that's why I've been pre-recording and then showing it on YouTube. But if you can catch those episodes on YouTube, what's our call sign there on YouTube, John?
It's Flint Talk Radio A. It's like Flint Talk Radio, and then there's an A after that. They can type it in a different way, and it'll show up. Or they can just type in Steve, STEVEMYERS, and that's also another place where they go. They could route, they can find it.
Right on. So there's 2 different sources there for you to check it out.
And
on YouTube channels.
And I'll put the links right up as soon as it's loaded. I'll put the links to the Compassion Club and everything else.
Right on. Absolutely. All right. Going to pause for a brief commercial break. Hold on. All right, and now we're back. That's how we feel about commercials right there, I tell you. We're not sponsored. We don't take any money. Although we wouldn't mind taking money.
No, we wouldn't, especially if it was like, one for the various things that are basically connected to the Compassion Club.
Yeah, local grocery store. Hey, anybody out there?
Then, that term just like skipped my mind at that moment. Was it a grocery shop it's called, a grocery store or something? And it was all gone. It was like...
All right. Well, just want to explain it to you. We're just rather than have the show get broke up, when we have internet issues, just put it all together, slap it on YouTube. That way you guys can check it out. So, but at any rate, there it is. All right. Next information I wanted to share with you. This is from LeafScience.com. You can check this out. This is scientists think a marijuana pill can cure PTSD. This is kind of interesting. It's not actually marijuana. It's a synthetic form. But there's these doctors that are working on different types of forms of it. One's from the NYU psychiatry professor Neumeister. I like that name, Neumeister. Hi, I'm Professor Neumeister. Meister, anything professor sounds cool. Anyways, he announced started a project last week at the Canadian Depression Research and Intervention Network. It was a conference, and it says here that there's been no drug developed for PTSD specifically, and that current antidepressants are ineffective for most patients with the disorder. It says here, PTSD victims have abnormally low amounts of chemicals called cannabinoids in their brains, and that obviously we know that cannabinoids are present in marijuana, so that's why it kind of works. However, what they're trying to do is figure out if they can come up with a synthetic version of marijuana to treat these people in the form of a pill. Now, obviously, there's Marinol already available. However, they're looking to have more than just THC be available in the pill form. So maybe a full-bodied pill or whatever. But at any rate, we know that marijuana is effective for victims of PTSD. In fact, that's why we just approved it as a qualifying condition here in Michigan. And you can take it in a pill form. We can make pills for you that do contain all your different cannabinoids, and or you can ingest it in a myriad of different ways. But at any rate, you don't have to wait for the pill because they're saying that it might not be available for another 6 to 8 years, which is kind of funny. We could make it right now, but to get it approved, Dr. Neumeister is going to have to do some more work. So at any rate, a team from the University of Arizona, they received an approval to launch the first study on smoked cannabis as a treatment for PTSD. So that's kind of interesting. And as a side note, I think Arizona is one of the states that turned down PTSD as a qualifying condition. So looks like they're in a bit of a conundrum there. But at any rate, in Michigan, we're not. So that's cool. All right, let's see what else we got here. This is interesting. Colorado lawmakers are considering, this is from TokeOfTheTown.com, Colorado lawmakers considering limiting concentrates in a knee-jerk reaction to recent pot scare. It says here that the paranoia has been sweeping through the legislature in Colorado, lawmakers crafting schemes to butt in on a non-existent problem. It says last week Denver coroner made a political statement by including marijuana consumption as a major contributing factor to suicide-like death of a 19-year-old college student who consumed a pot cookie. It says here, I think what happened here actually is the student didn't die from eating the pot cookie. They had actually jumped off a building while they were under the influence of this edible. At any rate, I think most people that consume cannabis could tell you that it doesn't make you, forget the laws of physics or anything, as the article's stating here, or turn into a, crazy person for that matter. But it's an unfortunate incident, and I don't think we need to have, new legislation because somebody jumped off the side of a building.
But maybe they should stop. I mean, I'm sure that at some point somebody who jumped off a building actually drank a glass of water prior to doing it. So maybe it's water's the culprit too.
Maybe
all these negative feelings.
Maybe they breathe.
Yeah.
They took a breath.
Maybe they actually have a rational brain and actually says that some things are probably really depressing and they're done in by that.
Well, the representative out there in Colorado, his name's Jonathan Singer. He introduced a House bill, it's number 1361, that would establish just how much hash or concentrates is equal to an ounce of dried flowers, and then impose limits on how much hash or concentrate people could purchase. Says, you know, and I assume that I guess they're assuming that the edible that this young person ingested had a concentrate in it versus dried flowers, which would be the norm. I mean, most people don't want to eat dried flowers. It's going to kind of taint the essence of the brownie, if you will. But, you know, is that going to be including, like canna butter as we've come to know it? I mean, is that, or is that just infused, like a brownie infused with hash in it? I'm not really sure. But, you know, I don't think the legislature is sure either. Anyways, funny how just a single incident can, you know, have a knee-jerk reaction, like you're saying, and all of a sudden now we're going to go ahead and propose a new law. Well, let's create a law because, you know, somebody made a mistake.
We're lawmakers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We got to justify our existence for getting money from all these people. I mean, hey, come to us. Give us your money. We'll pass a law for you.
Yeah. Well, any rate, that's what it is. You know, there's a lot of people that are up in arms about the whole edible concentrate thing, and you know, they're looking at trying to impose limits, whatnot. You know, we've got our own little situation going on here in Michigan where you got to be protected by Section 8 in order to get protection. So, i.e., you know, going in front of a jury or whatever. But you know, I think that the important thing is that these products are labeled, that they have an accurate description of, you know, what's been used to prepare them. You know, whether it be typical things like, you know, nuts or something that someone could be allergic to, down to, you know, the amount of marijuana that is in that particular form, whether it be a edible form or, you know, oil, hash, whatever it is that you're working with. I think we need to have proper labels in place for the protection of our patients. And, you know, that's part of a caregiver's job when they're working with their patient, is to help them gauge the dosage it is that they feel is going to be effective, so they're not being, you know, in a sense, overdosed or underdosed for that matter, which, you know, either could be uncomfortable for the patient. But, you know, that's part of being a good caregiver is taking that upon yourself to make sure you're being clear with that person, your patient, and letting them know exactly, you know, what the expectation level is going to be on this particular product. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, like, you know, we're talking about a commercial distributorship, you know, those can be lost in the lines there. I mean, one person's brownie can vary greatly to the next. And as a caregiver, the person who prepared that, they should be able to determine or at least have some sort of an estimate as to the effectiveness of what this is going to be. Like, hey, this is a rather low dose, it's rather mild, so you can eat the entire brownie and it should be effective. Whereas somebody else may say, no, you need to cut this brownie into 4 pieces and don't eat more than 1.
But, you know, maybe it's just because they want more legislation, because they want to channel to 1 or 2 groups, and because most our lawmakers are trial lawyers, and they want to be able to sue somebody when they get outside, when they stop making laws because somebody gets smart enough to boot them out. Now they can have somebody, one big major supplier of, you know, medical marijuana, if something crops up, they can sue them for it. That's what it's for. Maybe accountability, I'll call it. It's disguised as accountability.
You know, and I agree there should be some form of accountability there. I mean, caregivers have accountability to their patients, but, you know, when you start putting regulations in place, like you're saying, John, so just for the purpose so that I can come back and sue you, you know, that's not what accountability is for. It's not so we can win a lawsuit or get a settlement or something like that. It's so that we can live up to what it is that we're supposed to be doing, I mean, or saying. You know, this is a concern, and I think that's something that caregivers do have to take into account. Patients have to take into account for themselves. I mean, understand at least what the substances are that you're working with. And it is tough to gauge dosage. This is something that isn't boiled down to an exact science. Everybody's individual body is different. It's going to respond differently to the medication that's being ingested. And so this is something that can take time to educate yourself upon, figure out what works best for you, and something that you're going to have to experiment with a little bit to figure out, okay, yeah, this is just enough or not enough, or maybe too much. And, you know, very unfortunate incident out there in Colorado with a young person, and it's certainly not the norm. It's not representative of this being used as medication by any means, and I think it's something that is a one-off at any rate. It obviously doesn't happen too often. So moving on here, got a little information here. This is from Minnesota. Looks like they had a medical cannabis bill, and now the initiative is failing. The vote's been delayed at least 2 weeks. So it says here it looks like they were about to vote on a bill, but then they decided to adjourn and go on Easter break. So at any rate, Minnesota's been delayed. Patients are going to have to wait a couple more weeks before they get the issue picked up again.
It means you're only safe when they're adjourned. So you just hope they maybe find more fascinating things to do and pass laws.
Yeah.
Go off and do something else.
Yeah,
we'd be baskets.
Take your spring break, please.
Yeah, go get drunk in Mexico for a couple of weeks, or along with the college students.
They're probably just going to go ahead and start raising campaign contributions. Is what they're doing.
So whenever they're not actively screwing us over, they're planning to do it for the future.
That's about it.
They're getting the money for so.
That's about it. They're going to have an Easter egg hunt, but all the people who come to the party have to bring an Easter egg for them.
As the Muslims, okay, the Easter egg hunt, we're not having an issue with your Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, this country's getting insane, man. It's getting insane.
It is insane. We can talk about the Supreme Court decision a little later on, but before we get to that, I wanted to mention there's Safer Mich, an organization here in Michigan, has been quite effective in getting some local ballot initiatives passed here in the past. Flint being one of the cities that's been represented by them in the past, and we had the Flint measure passed here last November. But at any rate, they've gotten some coverage in the local paper on MLive, and it looks like, I'm just covering the story over again, 14 different cities in the state of Michigan right now. It looks like they will have a either recreational or decriminalization type measure on their city ballot coming this August during the primary election or in November during the regular voting election. So kind of interesting. One of the most closest to us is Lapeer, and there was an article there. Local attorney Bernard Jockins is sponsoring this initiative. And, actually Bernard's one of our club members. He's been in the club a number of times. A very nice gentleman, good attorney out of Lapeer. And he's helping get this measure put through, and it looks like that will go to voters. Basically what it is it is symbolic in nature because it doesn't change state law, and local officials still have the ability to enforce state law. But what it does is set forth a precedent, and in this case what they're doing is saying, anyone that's 21 years of age or older, the penalties for being caught with 1 ounce or less on private property would be reduced down to like a civil infraction, kind of like getting a parking ticket. So this is sort of the same type of initiatives we've heard about in the past. And like I said, there's 14 different cities that in Michigan that are going to be putting this to a vote coming this summer, fall election period. I think Grand Rapids is on there. Like I said, Lapeer, and I'm not going to go through all of them. Oak Park is another one, but 14 different towns. And to my knowledge, I believe there's already 5 towns that have passed these similar ballot measures in the past. So if these go through, we're looking at a possibility of 19 plus cities or townships in the state of Michigan where, hey, it's reduced fines, penalties, whatever for marijuana possession. Of course, this doesn't legalize marijuana. It doesn't make it okay to cultivate or to sell it by any means. But it does reduce the penalties down for possession. And, we've talked about the positive effects it's had on other areas in the state. The thing about it is that you don't have this person who's caught with the marijuana now facing serious penalties, damaging potential for them in the future. And it's something that they can, still enforce as far as law enforcement goes. They're still able to do their job. But more likely they're able to concentrate on, more serious crime. And that's really part of the effort behind these measures, is to be able to allow law enforcement to do their job in a way that's going to be most effective instead of spending those resources on things that, really the public doesn't seem or doesn't feel is necessary. And so good stuff there. Kudos to Safer Mich and the group. I know Tim Beck is one of the fathers of the movement there. Chuck Ream is another guy. I know Ben Horner has been active in it as well. He's active in getting the Flint measure passed. So kudos to all those guys for getting it done. That's just, I think it's a good thing. Definitely a step in the right direction. So wanted to cover that. You can check out more of that story on MLive. And like I said, Bernard was one of the people that were quoted in the paper. Is trying to get this through over in Lapeer. So kudos to Bernard, our friend, for making it happen. That's awesome. All right, just a few more stories for you. There's a new scare tactic. This is a report from the Washington Post. And let me pull this up here. It's saying legalizing marijuana is increasing heroin availability. So kind of another myth here that's being propagated. We'll see. Report from the Washington Post saying increasing the freedoms of marijuana users in the United States by legalizing limited amounts of pots is huge reasons for increasing heroin problem in this country. I don't know about that. It says here, the report focuses on growers in Sonora, Mexico, who say they have switched over as the wholesale price per pound of pot went from $100 a kilogram to just $25. Basically, these illegal growers in Mexico are saying it's just not worth it anymore, and so now they're going to produce heroin. Interesting.
Yeah, so I guess some people are going to use this to say, see, you increase the pot use, you're going to have this other drug coming available. But the reason why the profit incentive there is still there for the other drugs that haven't been addressed. And basically, the prohibitionist attitude still doesn't work because people still get heroin, still die from it. So the whole idea of prohibiting anything is the one that's got to be examined.
Yeah. Well, I think this, they're using the argument to, sort of put a bad light on marijuana legalization efforts or medical marijuana in general, but I think that it is a shining light on how the policies of prohibition just don't work. If these illegal growers basically are saying, look, weed just isn't worth it anymore. We don't get any money for it. It doesn't pay to be in the weed business. So now we're moving into heroin because it still does pay.
Yeah, bad people who are basically sociopaths who will take the risk to underwrite all the laws that society comes up with and finds a way around it. Now they're encouraged to just branch off into another production of an illegal, what's now still an illegal substance.
Yeah.
So basically, you're still not addressing the human issue of these guys willing to undertake those risks for the profit margin that it get, it brings about. So.
And I think a lot of people, when they talk about changing drug policy in this country, I think they get a little confused, the general population does, because, you look at marijuana and what's happening with that right now is, prohibition's being released slowly across the country, and in certain states like Colorado and Washington where it's available for recreational purposes, immediately the production of marijuana is being instituted and the sale of marijuana is being instituted as well to the general public. I think if we looked at changing our country's drug policies, changing our country's drug laws when it comes to other types of substances, such as like heroin or maybe cocaine or crack or something like this, we have to look at it from a different perspective than what you're seeing marijuana because, obviously as a general public population, we don't want to see these things being sold at your local drugstore. You don't want to have the local heroin shop open up and sort of propagate that. I think what we could do instead, though, is look at, instead of incarcerating people for possession, we look at treatment programs instead. And maybe going after the dealers or the producers. Not that there's a lot of heroin producers in the United States or cocaine for that matter. Most of this is being shipped in from other countries, obviously. But if we looked at the people who are just being caught for possession and having their lives ruined because of it, if we were able to switch that around and go to more of a treatment policy to get them off of these harmful substances instead of incarcerating them, I think we'd be looking at a cost savings there. And I think that we'd be able to more rapidly focus on the people who are in the business of these illegal trades rather than just going after the user.
See, like the community parent group that is today's show before you came in today, they give out a statistic, 80% of the people using heroin who started out using prescription drugs, not weed.
That is true.
And it's stuff and they're using heroin because it has the same effect or similar effect to the prescription drugs they're getting.
That is true. A lot of times people get started on drugs like OxyContin or codeine or something, or fentanyl, something along these lines, and they're no longer able to get the prescription for whatever reason, and so they turn to the street drug. They turn to heroin because it gives them the same relief that the prescription was given them. And oftentimes it's cheaper for the user to be able to obtain these illegal narcotics than it is the legal ones. And, they're able to get what it is that they essentially need. And that's why I think treatment programs would be a better way to go, because obviously, you've got people out there that are, they're law-abiding citizens. They started out as going to the doctor, they had a certain, issue happening, so they needed to get some pain medication. and then all of a sudden now, for whatever reason, they can't get it anymore. And oftentimes I've found a lot of these people, it's not because the doctor's saying, well, you're becoming dependent, we don't want you on it. It's because their insurance isn't covering the cost anymore. And so they're left with, not being able to go to the doctor to get this prescription, and they only have, limited resources, so they're going to the next best thing for them. And unfortunately, in this case, it turns out to be heroin. So I think that, we need to have better policies in place to help treat these patients and to help deal with this as a social matter rather than a criminal one. Something we've been arguing about for a while on this program. I think that it's, this comment here about, well, yeah, as an illegal cartel person, whatever, who's dealing with marijuana, they don't want to deal with it anymore because the capital market took it out of the black market's hands. I mean, it's very simple. So if we were able to do that to the black market, I mean, think about what would happen if we did take away the policies of prohibition. I mean, we really could stop a lot of these illegal drugs. Well, for one, they wouldn't be illegal anymore, but I mean, at any rate, we could stop the behavior that goes along with it, and I think probably improve our society as a whole.
Well, just look at the people who are providing heroin. They don't care. All consequences be damned to society. They just want to have money. Yep. And they're not stopped by policies. They already demonstrate that, or by legality or illegality. They're not stopped by that. I mean, that's not a concern.
Unfortunately, comparing it, I know this is kind of a jive comment, but the only difference between a heroin dealer and a pharmacist is one's approved by the FDA. Yeah, I mean,
and then and the person. Let's face it. I mean, if they put this in the hands of the mom and pops, stores like for marijuana distribution, you just go plunk your money down on a counter and they look at your ID and let you go off with it. Those guys are filing taxes. They're out there. There's a place to go to see where they're at. Where the guy who just goes around selling these drugs, all these other drugs out of the back of a car, pulls up and drops it off, throws it to them. They throw the cash in the window and they roll, because I've seen that happen here. It's
Flint?
Yeah, think about that. I mean, basically, you got people who are already saying, hey, we'll be held accountable for selling, alcohol, for example. Well, then when they're accountable for other these substances,
sure,
there is a line of accountability. I mean, so I don't know. I'm shaking my head at these people who these politicians who constantly want to find a way of taxing the hell out of us and taking away as many liberties as we can and giving it to them, and they go around, they turn around and often are users of this stuff themselves.
Yeah.
The self-righteousness gets to me.
Package regulated, though. All right, moving on here. This is next state. Wanted to talk about Maryland. Looks like Maryland legislature approved a bill decriminalizing the possession of 10 grams of cannabis or less earlier this week. And the governor, his name's Martin O'Malley, says he's not going to stand in the way. Says here Maryland becomes the 18th state to decriminalize marijuana on some level. And O'Malley, who said in the past he didn't favor lessening marijuana penalties, seems to have turned over a new leaf. Again, I'm reading to you from tokeofthetown.com. So this is kind of cool. They've decriminalized up to 10 grams. So basically personal possession.
10 grams is like considerable less than a full ounce, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, less than half. I mean,
yeah.
There's 28 grams in an ounce. But, so essentially they're saying, yeah, I mean, if you've got what would be considered a personal amount, then,
joints.
It's not going to be a penalty anymore. And this is the kind of policy I'm talking about for other types of drugs out there. I mean, I think that if you had some type of decriminalization for drugs in general, it's not going to necessarily, allow for the production, for the sale or transfer or anything like that. It doesn't allow you to go start your own heroin garden or anything like that. But it does at least take away the penalties from the user so that we can treat them instead of incarcerate them. I think there's a savings there, folks. So Maryland is moving on here. It's kind of cool. It says the bill goes into effect October 1st. It makes the penalty for having 10 grams or less a civil infraction. First-time offenders pay a fine of no more than $100. Second-time offenders fined up to $250. And repeat offenders could face fines up to $500 and mandatory drug education courses. So there you go. I mean, it doesn't take away, it doesn't make it legal. It just downgrades the penalty so that police can do their job more effectively and so that these people don't have their lives ruined over such an insignificant thing. So
But they still love your money.
They still want your money.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. But they want a little bit less of it. I mean, compared to the current penalties, which would be misdemeanor fines starting at $500 fines, it is an improvement to the overall program, I think. So, good stuff there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Come on, Internet. There we go. All right, this is the last story I want to share with you. This is from Missouri. It's regarding cannabis oil. So that's kind of interesting because Missouri, to my knowledge, doesn't have a medical marijuana program. I know they were trying to work on it, but they don't have anything yet. They are trying to pass a bill, though, that would allow cannabis oil for people with epilepsy. But the restrictions are really, really tight on this. So it doesn't really, it's not going to be very available, put it that way. It's been introduced. It allows people with severe epilepsy to use CBD oil. The oil's been growing, obviously, in popularity. Interesting. So it says here, there's advocates, trying to get the bill passed through. They're talking about people who have, epilepsy, but there's obviously a lot of other people out there who have other types of ailments that would like to be included in this, such as like the individual they're quoting here who has Crohn's disease. And he's saying, well, hey, I have these issues. Vaporizing would be a better option for me, and, I can't really vaporize this oil. But at any rate, that's kind of what they're working on down there in Missouri. I think it's kind of, we talked about this on the show before. I mean, you can't just go have CBD oil. It's going to have other types of cannabinoids in there. So it seems to me like the Missouri legislature is a little confused on how this actually works as medicine, how it's actually prepared. Kind of funny there. But, we've seen some of these other bills in other states get passed, and what they do is they don't necessarily make it available for patients to grow their own. They're not allowing, dispensaries or caregivers for that matter. What they're doing is they're saying, well, yeah, we'll make this available, but what we're making available is the ability to study this as medicine. So they're giving, availability to maybe a university or some other type of private company out there to submit maybe like a proposal, like, hey, we would like to study CBDs. Can we do that? And then, then they have to go through the NIDA program and so on and so forth. So it kind of turns into a big merry-go-round when in reality, what we need to have is access for patients. So, all right, Missouri, you got some work to do down there. So the show me state needs to show up. All right, that's about all the news I got for you this week. It's a little slow in the news media, but, hey, we do have some fun stuff coming up at the club. Definitely invite your friends down for that one. Definitely, we could use your help on the volunteer events, of course, which, we've got this Saturday coming up here and then in May. But we'd sure like to see you on our 420 party happening April 19th. It's going to be a blast. Hopefully it'll be nice weather. It's mostly going to be indoors at the club, and then we're going to have the food next door at the Holistic Center, which we're calling the Growing Concern, so that'll be cool. And then at the Learning Center, our educational center, we'll have registration over there and so forth. So exciting news also, I know upcoming soon, looks like it'll be here towards the end of April, but the Genesee County Compassion Club will be offering full-on mass spectrometry testing. So we will be available to test your medication full on. We can test it for cannabinoid content along with terpene profiles and also pathogens. So we'll be able to test for mold, spores, bacteria, etc., pesticides, you name it. We'll be able to figure it out. We'll also offer soil testing. So if you want us to test your outdoor soil, if you're getting ready to put in a garden outdoors, or if you want to test the stuff you're getting from the store for some odd reason, you can bring that in as well. But that'll be available at the end of April. Our tech's coming out here right after the 420 party to get us set up. We're going to have factory trained technicians working on the machine so that they'll be able to accurately figure out what's cooking in your medication. You know what I mean? So that's going to be cool. We're very excited about this. It's a very unique opportunity for the club to be able to offer this. There's hardly any other place in the state that offers this type of testing. This is full-on mass spectrometry testing.
For soil, say you got the people who are doing home gardening, just, vegetable gardening, that still might be beneficial to bring it in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be able to figure out what your content of your soil is, what it's made up of, what your mineral content, you might be lacking in nitrogen or something like this. Maybe you're phosphorus deficient. Who knows? But to be able to get a read on that, I mean, if you're going to put in an outdoor garden with a tremendous amount of preparation and work and upkeep that it takes an entire season, it would definitely be worth your while to figure out if you've got the right soil content in the first place. So definitely worth your while. I mean, at any rate, though, we're going to be excited to see all the different test results, and I know a lot of our members down at the club will be interested to get their products tested so they can find out what's working for their patients and why, and maybe be able to tweak their gardens at home a little bit to sort of improve their results as well. So, but I know quite a few of the other places out there that offer testing. They have different varied methods of providing this. We looked at a number of different ones leading up to the purchase of our machine. And this here is probably the most accurate way of providing the test. I mean, all the other methods out there, whether it be gas spectrometry or the infrared technology that's available. I mean, these are they're good methods, but they're not. I guess, for lack of a better term, they're inferior to the mass spectrometry that we'll be offering. So we're excited to have this. It is a very awesome opportunity for the club. We're definitely thankful to all our members for making this happen. It's your guys' contributions that make this possible. So thank you to our members for that. And this is going to be a great opportunity for our club to continue to be the premier place to be. So G3C, you guys rock. Thanks for listening to me this week. I appreciate you guys joining. John, thanks for being in the studio as always. Definitely appreciate your help and commentary. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be back next week with more information for you on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Thanks. See you.